speak a little bit towards the kind of just cloud to cloud benefits here and how just this kind of top level integration for Tradeshift and OneSource before
Yeah,
I dive in?
yeah, absolutely. Let's give a little bit of an idea of what is happening right here, right? So on the right-hand side, you have a tax engine, and then Tradeshift is on the left-hand side. Both products, in the cloud. Tradeshift is where users are going to create different types of transactions, such as requisitions, purchase orders, invoices as well. The engine, however, is going to receive a request from Tradeshift while these transactions are being generated or finalized. And at any time, a request for tax can come in from Tradeshift, whether you are modifying a requisition, adding things, whatever it may be, or finalizing it. Anytime a request that you wanted it to go, it goes into the engine. The engine is going to grab this information, and what goes into that request will be things such as ship from, ship to locations, an item, or a service that has been purchased that you need to pay. You can also send information on how much your vendor is charging you in tax. The engine is going to calculate the tax that the vendor should have charged, and then send that information back to Tradeshift. A comparison will occur between the OneSource calculated tax and the vendor tax. And depending on the results of that comparison, you will be able to take some actions. On the left side, we see what the type of documents that are supported by Tradeshift, and on the right-hand side, some of the things that Kelly and I already talked about, all the 56,000 tax jurisdictions and authorities that we support, all the countries that we support, whatever. So Tradeshift can send a transaction for US, Canada, any country of the EU, whatever it may be. And you can configure all those flexible rules in a manner that will fit your company. At the same time, we're going to provide a compliance module that would allow you to set up and prepare your returns, not only for the US and Canada, but for 50 other VAT jurisdictions.
What we're seeing now is what the Tradeshift UI looks like. We pride ourselves, and I know it's kind of a misnomer to say things are ease of use while talking about it, but I'll try to just say it once. Making things very consumer-like, easy to understand, so that people in your AP department might be managing these things. You don't need to have the IT team get involved all the time. So in terms of setting up the tax, we go to the Tradeshift configurator, which is where we can easily update some of the back-end more technical things to update on the platform. We have the tax configuration button on the left, and then we just have two kind of in plain English decisions to make. For those people who are on this call and are ready to sign up after this, they may have used the manual tax creation, where users can manually do what we're talking about. But now that everyone's seen the light, they're going to use this button on the right-hand side to connect their OneSource account to Tradeshift. And what that looks like, after clicking on that button, they would be brought to, once again, just a few easy kind of configuration steps inside the system. Here at the top that I've highlighted is where a user would put in their OneSource login credentials. Then there's just a few toggle switches that they're going to turn things on. We can see that top green box, the tax server integration. That's literally the kind of on and off button for this whole integration. The next line down, the calculate taxes, I've enabled it on my system. That's what Al was talking about, where we're going to see just in a moment how the OneSource engine is going to generate taxes based on a purchase request. We're also going to go through that third box is where we're going to validate taxes on incoming invoices. And then the last part there is setting up a default assignee. We're also going to see that. I've set it to Owen. We'll talk about Owen, who's just my kind of general user that we are going to be looking through the eyes of here in a moment. This could go to a single user or a group of user. And this is where any discrepancies, meaning if and when the OneSource engine says there's an error, this is who we would send these errors to, either a group of people on Tradeshift or a single user. And then last but not least, we need to set up some tolerances. In this case, I've kind of flattened it out to make it really easy to understand. What we're seeing here is I've created a tolerance for all invoices at all document levels, meaning we could decide if we wanted it just to look at header level or line items. We can delineate those to have maybe different tolerances if need be. You can segregate it by different currencies if you want to. I've set mine to all, meaning it's going to catch any currency. And then we have an absolute and a percentage value for variance. And we need at least one of these, but oftentimes we see that companies use both. So in this case, I've set it to 0, but for sake of example, if I had set it to $5, what that means is if there's an error that comes in that's less than $5, it's not going to create a task. It's going to go straight through because your organization has decided that it's not worth your time to update, fix an error if it's less than $5. And the same for the percentage. So what we're looking at right now in that blue box is a representation of the Tradeshift platform and all the processes, very generalized, that happen on that platform. So from procure to pay, and then at the bottom is where we tend to integrate with external systems once things have been completely validated and they go to an OK to pay folder. So what the first thing we're going to see is the creation of a requisition and that initial call that Alan and many people have talked about. We're going to call the ONESOURCE engine. Once again, cloud to cloud, we're going to get a real-time tax generation where it's going to give us a clear suggestion, a real suggestion of what these taxes should be based on this real information. So here we go into the live environment. Let's do that. So we're now in the Tradeshift platform, and I realize I'm getting excited and talking very quickly. I'm going to try to slow down. I apologize. We're now looking through the eyes of Owen, and this is our general procurement user. Once again, try to make the call out that we've created a very kind of consumer-like user interface. We pride ourselves on how kind of intuitive these processes are. And we're going to start by creating a purchase request. And we're now going to use it once again. I think we're kind of all used to creating a basket full of items and checking out. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a couple items. Let's say that this user is just getting some office supplies today. I'm going to add this item to the basket. I'm going to put 2, and you'll understand 2 different items. You'll understand why in a second. I'm going to add these 2 different items to a basket. Open up this basket, and here we have our 2 items ready to go. If we needed to make any adjustments to quantity or get rid of things, we could do that from here. But I'm going to go ahead and check this out. So now what Tradeshift's doing is pulling all this information into a purchase request and pulling in any attributes that are Owen's on this system. For example, Owen has a default delivery address, so we don't have to add that because every time Owen makes a purchase request, it's going to go here. I've also configured mine to require a description, hello webinar. And then for sake of example, but also because this is a very real world case that I hear about a lot, because there's the delivery address, I want to go ahead and open up the details for one of these 2 items. Scroll down, we have our accounting details, which is some of that data that's going to be going out to the ONESOURCE engine to help them generate those taxes. Because as Al said, we need to know kind of what these items are in order for them to know if a tax is exempt, or for example. But what I'm going to do here is change the delivery address for this one item to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And just to make sure that everyone's still awake there on the other side of the camera, if anyone knows what the address is, you get a virtual high five from myself. No points. I guess I don't have anything to give, but just to make sure everyone's still awake. So what we have here is the purchase request ready to go with 2 separate delivery addresses, which is really important. So when I click ready to submit, it's now sending out this purchase request to the ONESOURCE cloud, as Al talked about. And once again, kind of easy, plain to read information. We like to make sure that everyone knows what's going on. We can see up here on the top, the tax identification is in process. So right now, all that data is being sent out, and in real time, I'm going to refresh. We're going to now see that there has been 2 purchase orders created from this purchase request. And the 2 purchase orders are living here on the top right now. And then we can also see what's most important is these 2 separate taxes. And we could hover over them if we wanted to know, but at the bottom here, we also have a very detailed list of all of those various taxes that are required for these items based on what they are and where they're going. So I know Al talked about it a lot, but this is where we can clearly see San Francisco has a lot going on. We've got all this different sales taxes required for counties and different district taxes. And then thank you, DC, you have a very flat 6% tax on your item, which is a little bit easier to understand. So what we just saw was a purchase request being created in Tradeshift. We saw that requisition. We saw the call out to the ONESOURCE engine. We then saw the purchase order be sent out to the supplier.